Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going on a really vital, honestly restorative journey today, looking at something almost all of us have experienced at some point, but very few of us actually want to talk about. We're going to explore why our careers, even when they look absolutely fantastic on paper, sometimes just leave us feeling totally empty inside. If you've ever looked around at your outwardly successful life and thought, wait, is this it? Well, you're exactly in the right place. We're going to use some powerful insights today to calibrate exactly where you are right now and more importantly, where you're actually heading.
So, why does a quote unquote good job sometimes feel completely unbearable? It's a heavy question, isn't it? And right off the bat, I want to validate that hidden pain you might be carrying around. The modern pace of life is just incredibly fast, and the external demands placed on us, they're stricter than ever before. We spend so much time agonizing over work, but our reflections on life have become dangerously scarce. The truth is, the true suffering you feel in the workplace often isn't about the job itself. I mean, it's not the emails. Actually, scratch that. It's rarely about the emails or the meetings. It's a deeper, completely unacknowledged misalignment between what you're doing all day and what you actually value in your core.
Okay, let's dive into this by looking at two very different realities. On one side, we've got scenario A. Just picture a high-powered corporate consultant billing, say, 80 hours a week. They've got the huge income, the super impressive title, but their work constantly pulls them toward a destination they just don't care about at all. Long-term, this severe misalignment creates massive inner friction and alienation. It just builds this sort of nameless pain. Now contrast that with scenario B. Think of a passionate nonprofit coordinator or maybe a really dedicated public school teacher. Now the pay might not be top tier, and the hours, they can definitely be quirky. But their work aligns strongly with their ultimate life view. And because of that alignment, they develop this incredibly powerful inner core. They have immense resilience, simply because their daily efforts actually mean something real to them.
Part 1. The tear, work view versus life view. To really understand this inner friction and how to move from scenario A to scenario B, we've got to look under the hood. Let's define our terms so we're all on the exact same page. Your life view is essentially what you believe makes a life worth living. Your work view is how you choose to spend your 8 hours, or let's be real, way more than 8 hours, every single day. Now, a lot of people think having a life view is something abstract, something reserved for philosophers or people enjoying their retirement. But no, it's intensely practical. Your life philosophy dictates how you wake up in the morning, how you feast your boss every single day, whether you should change jobs, or even how you accommodate your partner. It is the ultimate internal calibration.
And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when those two views lose their synergy. Imagine your left foot represents your life view, and it desperately wants to head east. But your right foot, your work view, is being dragged entirely to the west by the relentless demands of your job. Every single day you step out the door, you're literally walking in opposite directions. There are really only two biological and psychological outcomes to this kind of crazy tension. You either experience a painful tear, or you just go completely numb. Because no matter how successful the right foot is at walking west, if your heart is in the east, you're absolutely going to suffer.
Part 2. The pathology. Why we ignore the pain.
If this tearing sensation is so incredibly painful, why on earth do we let it happen? Why is it so difficult for us adults, particularly as we hit middle age, to just sit down and self-reflect compared to when we were young and full of dreams? Well, the answer largely comes down to societal pressure. We exist in cultures that honestly do not encourage explicit individuality. Restraint, endurance, blending in, these are the things that get highly praised. Over time, in that tricky space between the self and society, we actively choose to abandon the self. We learn the unwritten rules, right? Be a good employee by not speaking up. When things feel wrong, just swallow your emotions. Don't question the deeper meaning of the task, just deliver the results. The devastating cost of this conditioning is that by the time we actually want to look inward and see ourselves clearly, we find our hearts are just covered in this thick, heavy layer of dust. Consider this really profound reality. Numbness is not enlightenment, it's a lost sense of pain. I want you to really let that sink in for a second. So many people reach a point in their careers where they think they've simply let go or they've become wonderfully detached and enlightened about office politics or climbing the career ladder, but often it's not transcendence at all. It's just a psychological armor. After constantly repressing ourselves and twisting to accommodate others, our minds choose to basically close off our senses just to protect us. We stop asking, we stop thinking, and tragically, we stop feeling. So the crucial point is this. When you operate like a machine, just going step by step through the motions to survive the week, you lose your pain receptors, and a highly dangerous situation quietly starts to form. Your life view and your work view are completely, entirely disjointed, but you can't even feel the disconnect anymore. It's exactly like having a severe illness in your body, but having zero physical ability to feel the pain. You become trapped in a misaligned life, and your own numbness has essentially become the lock on the door.
Part 3. The prescription, your annual life checkup.
But hey, there is a way out. And the best part is, it doesn't require blowing up your entire life overnight. We definitely don't need to fall into agonizing daily overthinking. Instead, what we need is a regular, gentle life audit. Just like you'd go to the doctor for a physical, it is time to prescribe the annual life checkup. So when should we lift our psychological shields and trigger this checkup? Well, here is your timeline of ultimate warning signs. First, right before a job change. Ask yourself, does this new role actually bring me closer to my ideal life picture? Second, right before major life events. We're talking marriage, having kids, moving cities, or going back to school. Have you truly considered how these choices impact your overall trajectory? And finally, the absolute most urgent trigger, when you are feeling chronic anxiety or emptiness. Basically, when the Sunday scaries mutate into the everyday scaries. These negative emotions are often the very first signals that your life view has totally lost its balance. So what do we actually ask during this checkup? Remember, we aren't looking for absolute perfection here. We are just looking for minimum consistency. I want you to mentally screenshot this checklist. Question 1, is what I am doing right now bringing me closer to who I want to be, or is it pulling me further away? Question 2, if the person I am today met my younger self, would they feel like I betrayed them? And question 3, if nothing changes at all, can I accept living in this exact state for the next 5 years? Take a second with those. They really cut right through the noise, don't they? Let's move to and see how this builds. Part 4. The prognosis, reflection is self-care.
Look, once you start asking those tough questions, it's so incredibly easy to panic or to just feel guilty. We need to fundamentally reframe what it means to look inward and evaluate our prognosis. If there is one thing, literally one single thing I want you to take away from this explainer, it's this. Reflection is not judgment. It is an act of care. This process is never, ever about self-criticism. It's definitely not about demanding an immediate, earth-shattering life change that completely ruins your financial stability. No way. It is simply about using who you are to decode what you are currently doing. At its core, it's an act of deep reassurance.
Let's summarize the true purpose of all this. The real goal is unburdening yourself, not denying your hard-earned achievements. It's a gentle reboot of your internal operating system, not some wild escape from reality. Ultimately, it is about finding a reasonable, vaguely correct direction for your life. Because remember, a somewhat blurry but authentic direction is infinitely better than a crystal clear but entirely false goal. We're a generation that was forced to mature way too fast and face reality way too early. So many people just completely shut down their thinking about what kind of life they actually want by the time they hit 30. But that perceived stability, it's often just the beginning of a numb life. We have to leave a window open for self-examination. Which leaves us with this final echoing thought. At least once a year, you just have to peer through that window and ask yourself this one simple but unbelievably profound question. Am I still living like me? This kind of reflection isn't some luxury item reserved for the privileged. It's absolutely crucial. It's a necessity for survival. I really want you to let that question linger today. Think about your life view, take a hard look at your work view, and ask yourself, are you still you? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I truly hope this sparks a powerful, lasting curiosity about your true self. See you next time.